Yes.
Fire?
Okay, so they had fires. Now, most likely they had fires outside of their homes. They didn't have fires inside because of how small they were that they'd get really smoky. So they'd have a fire outside that would help to keep them warm. And they'd also make blankets out of animal furs from animals that they hunted for their meat. So they'd make blankets, and those would help keep them warm. Now, do you see that rectangle up there? That's not a window, that's actually a door. The windows are those small squares that you see. And if you see that square, it has a rock right in the hole. Now, that's another way they would help to keep the dwellings a little bit warmer. They had rocks that they'd cut to fit the windows and the doors, and so they could push those into place when it was cold and windy and snowy, and that would keep all of the weather out, and so all that cold air and weather couldn't get in. Okay, also if you look at the sticks that are poking out above the window and door, that's where they would hang meat and vegetables for drying in the sun during the summer. Now, who knows what dried meat, what's another name for it? Yeah.
Beef jerky?
Right, so they would have beef jerky and they would have dried vegetables, and drying their food would preserve it for a lot longer. Since they didn't have refrigerators or a way to keep food fresh like we do, that was one way that they could have their meat and vegetables all year round and eat them in the winter also. Okay, now we're going to be climbing through that door right there in just a second. First, what we're going to do is we're going to take a vote. Who thinks that the men owned the cliff dwellings? Raise your hand. And who thinks that the women owned the cliff dwellings? You guys are actually right. The women owned the cliff dwellings, and when a man and woman got married, the man would actually move into the woman's home with her family. And so they'd also live with any of her sisters and their husbands and their children, and even with any of her unmarried brothers. And so that's a really interesting part of the Anasazi